all the mothers here, when I walk into Amber's place, what I like to say is, "Hi guys, my name's Kriss." And they'll look at me and they'll say, "Yeah, who are you?" And then I'll get their attention. I'll say, "I'm Amber's mother." Actually, I'm Amber's wicked stepmother. About 6 years ago, I met my soulmate at the gas station. Mark. A year later, we were married.
At the gas station.
At the gas station. In Candia. When we first met, we spent 3 days without sleeping, talking and sharing everything about our lives together. We revealed everything. The thing that I was most excited about, because it was love at first sight after all, I brought to the table 3 beautiful sons, and Mark brought to the table 1 beautiful daughter. Oh, he's got a girl. My dreams are coming true.
Because she does makeup.
I do makeup. And he said, "Don't get too excited." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, Amber's not that comfortable in her skin. She's always on the run. You'll see." And when I met Amber, I knew she was troubled on the inside. She had a soul sickness of some type. You know, what I learned was that she had untreated bipolar disorder, and she suffered from addiction. She started using at age 15 over-the-counter Benadryl, made her feel more comfortable in her skin. And soon she was sort of a runaway, on the run. These are the stories that I hear. She turned to marijuana. She turned to alcohol. Make no mistake, these are gateways. Then she turned to opiate prescription drugs on the street that she was buying. Those got kind of expensive. She found heroin, and she was hooked. And we didn't see her too much. When we did, it was kind of strange. She was usually on some kind of dog rescue mission, or out there on the streets trying to save lives, she said. Her dream was to be an EMT. One night, the phone rang, and we were like, "That's a weird number." We picked it up, and it was Valley Street Jail. And she had been arrested on possession charges. The last 2 years of Amber's life, she had 4 incarcerations. We had done everything that we could to help her. We had dragged her to 12-step meetings. We had tried to get her into treatment, but every time a bed became available, she was nowhere to be found. A bed became available while she was in prison, but they wouldn't let her out. And then when she got out, the bed was not available. So we tried to detox her at our house. And that didn't work too good, because on the 3rd night, we got up in the morning and it was quiet in the house. And we were like, "Wow, she's sleeping late." And we went in, and there was a note on the bed that said, "I love you both so much, but I had to go back to my people." And her people were the homeless people on the streets of Manchester. She spent the last 2 years of her life either with the address of Valley Street Jail or under bridges. The last time that we saw Amber was Easter Sunday. She missed the first party. She never called us. But during that first party, the phone rang and it was her. She said, "You can come pick me up." And she gave us this address in this alley. And we went, and she came out, and to my delight, she had makeup on for the very first time. You see, it had been 4 years since she'd been in my life, and being a makeup artist, I always said, "One day I'm going to do your makeup, maybe it'll be your wedding." And she said, "Oh yeah, maybe one day I'll do my makeup," but I could never catch her. I could never sit her down long enough to get a makeup brush out. So she got into the car, and we had brought her some candy and a plate from the party we just came from. All of a sudden, I looked, and she's in the back seat eating it like a barbaric animal that hadn't eaten in a week. And one look in her crystal blue eyes, and there was just a little pinprick of a pupil, and I looked at her, and she was vacant. It's like her soul had been taken out of her, and I knew she was high. So we went on to Mark's brother's house, and it was very awkward. She was making everybody at the party really uncomfortable, walking around and refolding blankets. And after 45 minutes, we said, we have to get out of here. And so we asked her, please, Amber, come home with us. Please come home with us. And she said, no. Drop me off where you picked me up. So we dropped her off, but it was one of those Easter Sundays where the sun was really sparkling, and it was a beautiful afternoon. And she said, get out of the car and say goodbye to me properly. So I got out of the car first, and she came up to me, and I put my arms around her, and I hugged her a little harder and stronger than normal. Maybe it was intuitive. And I said, Amber, I love you so much. She wouldn't look me in the eye. Then she went around the car and she hugged her dad for the very last time. 3 days later, in that same alley, Amber was found, face down on the pavement, dead from a heroin overdose. How do you put your life back together when the child you've always wanted, or the only child you've ever had, is dead? You're mad at heroin. You're mad at yourself. You couldn't save her, but you know you did everything that you possibly could. What do? You fall apart. You grieve. You hold each other. You realize that you're still alive, but you feel dead inside. And what you do is you pray. You pray for God to lift you up. You go to sleep at night hoping tomorrow will be an easier day. I went to bed 2 weeks after she died, and I had a dream in the middle of the night. An angel came to me and whispered to me, Kriss, stay in the stream of life. I woke up and I said, Mark, we have to stay in the stream of life. And he said, what does that mean? I said, that means we have to suit up, show up, even if we don't want to. I have to go back to work. I have to paint 30 faces a day. I've got to get out there. The presidential election's coming. I'm the top political makeup artist in the country. I have to pick my makeup brush up. I have to go and I have to do the thing I don't want to do. I want to die with it, don't you? But our love and our God lifted us up. And we started to go out. And staying in the stream of life means talking about what you've been through. It means advocating. It means getting out there and sharing your story. Like tonight, it means coming out and sharing your story and finding out that other people are just like you, are going through the same things. In fact, people are saying, oh, my son's addicted, can you help me? I lost my niece. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my father. And then you start realizing, my God, I think we have an epidemic on our hands here. This is brutal. And then all of a sudden, Mark and I decide we're going to get on TV and we're going to start talking about this. Then everyone starts talking about it. Then the presidential candidates start rolling in. I said, I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to talk to everyone about it. I'm going to use my makeup brush, and I'm going to use my mouth. And I'm going to use this courage and this passion and this love that I have for Amber Blevins. And I'm going to start talking about it. And I'm going to make people really uncomfortable, and I don't care.
Nice. Nice.
And then I got a call from Hillary Clinton's National Advisory Committee. Could you possibly share Amber's story with her National Advisory Committee? And I said, yes. And via Skype, I sat there waiting for it to start 5 minutes before. And they came on and they said, you know, there's all these people with titles in the state. They're all in charge of stuff. And you're the only person that doesn't really have a title. What are you going to say? You're the makeup girl? And I said, I'll figure it out. And they came on. And they said, could you state your name and who you represent? And I said, I'm Kriss Blevins. I'm Amber's stepmother. And I represent everyone who's died of heroin overdose or is about to. And then I went to Donald Trump's press conference, and 200 people were there. I raised my hand a little higher than everyone else. And he went, "Yeah, you in the back." And I said, "Do you know that we have a heroin epidemic here in New Hampshire? What are you going to do about it?" And he said, "I'll have to look into that." And then my world really collided. I got booked to go do makeup for CBS Face the Nation for Governor Kriss. So I'm like, okay, I can do that makeup job. So, and then about 5 hours later, I got a call to be on Face the Nation with CBS with Governor Kriss as an advocate talking about the heroin epidemic. And I thought, my God, my worlds are colliding. The power of the makeup brush and the power of advocacy are one. And it's a beautiful thing. So, long story short, I talked and 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 I talked, and then one day I looked in the mirror and I said, "Oh, Kriss, you're not all talk. You can't be all talk and no action. What are you going to do?" So I prayed and I went to bed. And in the middle of the night, I had a dream. You see, the thing that I had been crying from my soul is, does anyone see that we're in a state of emergency? There's people dying everywhere. 328 people? Does anyone see this? Wake up! Is anyone going to do anything? I have to do something. God, please show me what I'm supposed to do. That night, I dreamt I was in this building. There were beds everywhere. There were cots. There were sick people on all these beds, and there were illuminated spiritual souls sitting next to them, holding their hand, helping them through this sickness. It was an emergency shelter, like we do with the Red Cross if there was a natural disaster. And the guide in the dream brought me out the door, and I turned around, and it said Amber's Place on the building. And I woke up, and 5 hours later, I was booked with Hillary Clinton to do her makeup for CNN. And I said to her, I said, "Senator Clinton, I had a dream that I'm supposed to open an emergency shelter." And she said, "Kriss, chase your dreams." And I walked into Hope for New Hampshire Recovery. Never been there before. And I met Melissa and Holly, and in came a girl crying, saying her best friend had just died of an overdose, and she got on a wait list for her bed. It was 4 months from then. And she looked at me and she said, "I'm not going to live that long." And I looked at Holly and Melissa and I said, "Will you help me open an emergency recovery shelter?" And they said, "Sure." Let's fast forward to today. 9 weeks ago, we opened Amber's Place at 140 Central Street. But guess what? You might not think the money you put in the wishing well makes a difference. We have not got any city, state, or federal funding for this project. You see, because the world needs to see it before they believe it, before they open their pocketbook, and I'm an entrepreneur, and you know what I say? I'm going to raise money to open it, then they're going to see it, then they're going to open their wallets, and we're going to save some lives. And that's exactly what has happened. I would like to report that in 9 weeks, we have served 70 guests at Amber's Place. 70 people that wouldn't be here because the majority are overdose survivors that come to us right away, so that they're not kicked right back out from that emergency room and they have nowhere to go but back to the drug. We've got to stop the recycling. You see, what we're doing is we're initiating recovery in that desperate moment of need. And when no one else wants them, we say, "We love you. Come with us." We turn nobody down. You come into Amber's Place and you stay with us, and our coaches, our Hope coaches, are going to find your personal treatment path. And you're going to start your new life, and we are going to love you right now. The picture that you see on our thing here, that's Amber. And if everybody could just put your hands up in a heart right now. This was the last picture that we found on her cell phone when she passed. Amber, we found out at her wake. All right? We thought she was just homeless out there doing stuff. She was the girl that was helping everyone else but couldn't help herself. She was detoxing people under bridges in the city of Manchester. We had 500 people show up at her wake, and one after another said, she helped me detox on the coldest night under a bridge in Manchester. And I did her makeup for that wake so that her dad could see her in the way that he remembered her. I did get to do her makeup. It was the hardest but the most spiritual, amazing thing. And I made a promise to her. I made a promise to her that her life would not be in vain. And I'm here to tell you that her spirit is raging miracles. We have some, I won't tell you who they are, but there's some Amber's Place guests mingled in between our coaches here who maybe 4 days ago were on the verge of death and today have life. This is a living, breathing program. And thank you so much for